Last Thursday was our end-of-year party at school. It was a magical night where all things took place at once and life itself unraveled before our eyes. Nah, but I did do a whole lot of stuff, and the night was characterized by being a load of fun for a long time and then suddenly turning to shit in an unexpected way. Now, I love contrasts. In stories, I like sharp character arcs. In nature, I like the changing daylight and the seasons. And I like roller coasters, even though they make me sick. So as a tribute to this contrasting evening, I'm making a vlog that starts out funny and then turns really moody at the end. My name is Larben, and now for something completely different.
Det är lite långt mellan mitt munhål och mitt stämband.
Ja, okej.
Ja.
Ja.
Kan jag fortfarande picka på den där saken? Här.
Hörru du ser sjukt gott ut.
Ja. Det är en väldigt stor blandning här, om man ska säga. Jag har försökt likna för vissa Munin, men själv tycker jag att det liknar mer en pestdoktor.
Ja, jag tycker att det ser verkligen ut som en pestdoktor.
Ja, visst är det coolt?
Ja.
Jag älskar pestdoktors. Jag skulle verkligen vilja bara vara där under digerdöden när alla lemmar faller av på folk och det är fyllt med glidmedel och diamanter och sånt som de använder. Just nu är jag Munin för alla andra, men vi låtsas att jag är en pestdoktor, för det är mitt livsdröm. Det här är bara B-jobbet liksom, men sen blir det pestdoktor. När nästa svininfluensa kommer, som kommer att heta Balusa-influensan, då är jag redo.
Jajamensan.
Hur fick du till den här
Det är garn.
Nej, jaha!
Vad sa du?
Det är ganska svårt att köpa en kroppstrumpa. Det tror man inte först. Man tror att det ska vara ganska basic. Man går in i en affär, man säger typ jag behöver en hudfärgad kroppstrumpa. De bara, ja men det är den hyllan. Men så är det inte riktigt. Utan man blir skickad från affär till affär. Så först var jag på ett dansställe där de skulle ha typ 1000 spänn för en kroppstrumpa.
Nej.
Jo, det var helt sjukt. Och sen så blev jag skickad vidare till olika affärer. Så jag på Buttricks, de hade sån här med typ Adam och Eva med löv på och jätteslappa liksom. Man vill ju vara lite, se lite vältränad ut.
Ja, verkligen.
Men sen till slut blev jag så här skickad till någon källare där jag så här pratade med en tjej och hon bara "Welcome to this sex shop, we have all different kinds." Och sen så visade hon mig någon läderdress. Jag bara, men det här är inte riktigt hudfärgat, det är liksom, det är svart läder. Hon bara, oh but we have this other store down in the basement, it's really close, come. Och sen så gick vi så här ner för olika trappor och så till slut kommer vi in till en liten blek farbror som sitter och bläddrar i massa tidningar så här. Och sen så typ hänger det så här buttplugs på väggen. Och hon bara, okej, alright, you're okay now. Och så typ går hon så här och lämnar mig. Och han bara, ska du ha en kroppstrumpa annars ska du ha den då? Jag kan så här, jag kan fixa den var fjärde, det är inga problem. Jag kan så här, det ordnar vi. Och så börjar jag så här bläddra i sina tidningar och visar på så här helt genomskinliga i jättetunn nylon där man ser så här könet och allting. Så jag sa typ att det kanske är lite för vågat för klassfesten. Och så sa han typ att jag skulle komma tillbaks om jag ville ha kvalitetsprodukter.
Det var därför det.
Ja.
Det är ganska underbart faktiskt.
Maybe I should have mentioned the theme was characters from Nordic folklore, in case that was confusing. A while later, we were sitting on a lawn in front of the building, and a friend of mine, someone I actually really like and respect, got very angry at me because there was this thing that I mentioned that I maybe should have done. And I'm sorry that this is so ridiculously vague, but none of this is actually the point that I want to talk about. I didn't say, maybe I'm gonna do this thing. It was something that I had an opportunity to do a few months ago, and I said, hey guys, don't you think I should have done this thing? So this friend of mine got really upset, and she was basically screaming at me because she felt that if I did the thing, that would be very inconsiderate. Basically, if I did the thing, somebody could react negatively. We're talking about triggering. Now, my school has a particular political climate where, among other things, people are very concerned with trying to be inclusive and addressing social issues and not offending anyone, etc. Alex reacted to some of this in the video about art that I made. In this culture, people often talk about triggers. The idea is that if somebody has had a traumatic experience, they can be triggered if they're reminded of the experience. This could be anything from having a full-blown breakdown to feeling bad and zoning out for a while. Basically, it tends to be something that ruins your day. So we're encouraged to warn people when showing stuff that could potentially trigger someone, such as sexual stuff to be considered to rape victims, or violent stuff to be considered to violence victims, and not really that much else at all, actually. And here's my hang-up about trigger warnings. When all you care about is protecting people from seeing nudity and violence, especially when you're very passionate about those things, but you don't care about warning about other things, then in my eyes, your concern for people's psychological well-being is a pose, a facade, and a farce. Because anything in the whole wide world is a potential trigger. Anything could be connected with a traumatic experience, and it doesn't even have to be. I had a trigger during my teens. I'll tell you the story. When I was 12, I saw Terminator 2. If you haven't seen it, you'll have trouble following this. Sorry about that. I saw Terminator 2, and then I went to bed and spent the longest night of my life awake, shivering. I was afraid, and I don't think I understood exactly of what. It never went away, and for years I never actually talked about it, because mentioning it brought it back. So I practiced suppressing my thoughts. But at some point I must have mentioned it because I think my mom told my older sister to talk to me about it. I remember her saying something like, "Yeah, that evil robot sure was scary, huh?" That made it worse. And not just because I had to think about it, but because she didn't understand. Of course, she couldn't understand if I didn't say anything. The thing is, I wasn't just a little kid who saw an action movie and got scared of the villain. I was afraid of the good robot. Whenever I heard a motorcycle in the distance, I was afraid that Arnold Schwarzenegger would come from the future and tell me that super intelligent computers had taken over the world. I was afraid of artificial intelligence and the apocalypse. Most people don't take this seriously, but I did, and I still do. Stephen Hawking talks a lot about this as well, as does Elon Musk. Now, it comes down to whether or not you believe computers can get as intelligent as humans. It's really a whole other topic for another video, but the idea is that if computers get to our level, then they can start improving themselves and reinventing themselves, and essentially we'll have a huge explosion of complexity in a very short time, and humans will be obsolete. That obsolescence is the key to why I was so afraid of this. It comes back to the question of meaning and purpose that I talked about in the art video. Basically, if machines can do everything we do but better, then what's the point of anything we do? Most people don't question their own relevance in the world, and that's what I started doing when I was 12. In the face of this, everything else seems like such trivial crap. I turn on the TV, it's entertainment, or news, or commercials, all aimed at humans doing human stuff. I go to school and it's full of humans worrying about their petty little human problems. I'm supposed to learn things to eventually do some job, but that job is a human job, meant to meet human needs. I play video games, which is fun. But if you're thinking about potentially being eclipsed by a machine, then anything fun feels more like a hamster wheel than anything else. Eventually this fear extended to all possible world-ending scenarios. I remember being alone in my dark one-room apartment when I was 17. I was supposed to just go to bed so I could go to school the next day, but I stumbled upon this sensationalized news article that said scientists were gonna start up the Large Hadron Collider the following day, and there's a risk that they'll create a black hole that'll swallow up the Earth. Of course, I logically knew that it was probably bullshit, but it didn't matter. That night, I felt like the whole world consisted of only my apartment. Like I was alone and the rest of the world was nothing but a large black vacuum. I was playing Zelda on my DS to try to distract myself, think about something else, pretending to care about what happened in the game. But all I felt was that great emptiness. Then I woke up the next day and I went to wait for the bus at my bus stop. And I knew that nobody else cared about this the way that I did. But emotionally, I couldn't quite comprehend how people could just stand around at the bus stop so casually. I felt like the world was ending and that I was the only one who really knew. Or who really felt. Getting back to the topic, nobody would think to put trigger warnings on news about newly discovered asteroids that may or may not be on a collision course with Earth. Or on documentaries about the advancements in computer technology, or on the trailers for the movie 2012, and there were times when I wished those things were banned. But they shouldn't be. I don't mean to trivialize the feelings of someone who has actually had traumatic experiences, and I don't want to compare my experiences to theirs, but realistically, if you're walking around with a trigger, that means your day or your life could be ruined by someone mentioning something or showing you something, then what you need isn't to tailor the whole world to protect you. You need help to get rid of that trigger. I didn't get help. Mine just faded away after about 6 years when the spectacular experience of life made the abstract thoughts in my head feel a little less concrete. I really should have talked about it sooner. The sun is coming up now, so that was my night. If you have any thoughts about any of this, I would love to hear them. Thank you for watching and for listening to my story, and I'll see you next time.